Hey guys, Lionel here at Indian Wells 70.3 Friday night, races on Sunday. And this week I thought it'd be kind of interesting, something we haven't done before, is really talk about tapering and what a taper looks like and what are the things that it hinges on. And so I guess that's what we'll do for a video this week. So I think before we talk about the actual taper, the probably most important thing to think about is the time leading into the taper, because the taper is going to look different based on how hard or how little you've trained, if you had any races in there, that sort of thing. So I think we got to go back all the way to the last race, which was on November 3rd in Los Cabos, and that was a pretty big effort. And I had the DI2 failure, and so I recruited my leg muscles a little differently than I normally would, and so there was a little bit of soreness the next day. So for me to just make sure I didn't push it too hard, I ended up taking about 4 days completely off, and then basically did 2 activation sessions that week: activation bike, activation run, and then a couple of quality swims, because I usually try and get back into swimming pretty quickly. Otherwise, that week after the race, that was all I did really. I logged 7.5 hours total training, and in terms of numbers, 11,000 meters of swimming, 28 kilometers of running, and about 3 hours of biking. So, super chill week. And then I basically got into 3 straight weeks of building in my mileage, and each week of these 3 weeks I would do 2 quality bike workouts, 2 quality run workouts, a long ride, a long run, and 4 quality swims. So in terms of total volumes, week 1 swam 19,000 meters, ran 75 kilometers, and biked about 7.5 hours. Building into week 2, total training time of 20.5 hours, consisting of 20,000 meters of swimming, 94 kilometers of running, and looking to be about 8.5 hours of biking. I also started doing that week. David wanted me to start doing some kind of activation strength type work, very run-specific strength work, and so I also logged 40 minutes of that kind of work as well. And then building 1 more week in, and normally I don't like to do 3 straight weeks of build. Usually I like to do 2 build and then 1 down and trying to absorb it, but because I only was going to be able to train for 3 weeks leading into Indian Wells, I decided to start off super chill and then sort of progress up by week 3 to where I normally would progress in week 2, but do it over the course of 3 weeks. So that's what I did. And so then leading into week 3, total volume 23.5 hours, 21,000 meters swimming, 102 kilometers running, and about 10.5 hours biking. So built gently and across every week. Peak workouts on the bike, I'd say the best workout I did right towards the end of the block was 50 minutes at 390 watts with 3 minutes recovery, so a very threshold FTP building centric workout. And then also built up to, I did a video, that was a pretty good run workout, kind of more on the high end of things. And then later on that week I did 4 times 2K on the treadmill, all at 12 miles per hour, which was as fast as the treadmill goes. And probably now at a stage in the running where I would want to go faster than 12. And so if I was to use the treadmill at the house in Tucson, I'd probably have to start to tinker with the grade to get that kind of effort. And then quality swim, probably one of the best swims we got up to was, let's have a looky here, somewhere in the vicinity of 10:1s, leaving on 130, coming in 104 or so. That was the effort level. So that was the training. So I pushed that pretty close to the race. That gets me at most, after I executed that final the 3rd week, that gives me 6 days to taper. So from experience, I have found that and I've tinkered with this, and if there's any advice I can give you, it's to just tinker with things and log how you feel after you do it. Because I've done, for instance, 2-week tapers, literally 14 days, where I'll really start to reduce the volume. And I have gotten to the race in those situations and felt absolutely horrible, totally out of rhythm, just really weak, the effort really foreign, and didn't race well. I've done a 10-day taper, once again, similar idea, didn't really race very well, found myself to feel very flat. And so I've come to the conclusion over, approximately 8 years or so of analysis of various forms of absorbing and tapering into races, that what works for me is 5 to 6 days of a pretty heavy taper. And in order to earn that kind of heavy taper, you need to do some heavy quality work leading in. Because if you haven't done much heavy work, then I actually probably would push it even a little bit closer in order to just get the rhythm and all that sort of thing. Let's say if I had an illness or something that caused me to not be able to train for a couple of weeks, and then I had 2 weeks leading into the race, I'd probably actually train for 10 days and then maybe only taper for 3 or 4 days leading into the race, which I have done that before too. Everything went pretty well. This particular block, I got a cold for 2 weeks, but I was able to train through it pretty much the whole time, so it didn't really affect the training too much, other than the swimming wasn't, the top end on the swimming wasn't super great because of the hypoxic nature of swimming. So anyways, that leads us to the taper, which I'll talk about next. So as I said, I trained really hard leading into this taper, and I felt like I earned it, and I think that's a really important part of a taper, is to feel like you actually earned it. Because if you don't feel like you earned the taper, then I find you're like kind of still trying to train in the taper, and tapering has very little to do with actual training. I think you really got to get that through your head. There's no training effect happening anymore. It's all just activation, shedding of fatigue, and just trying not to lose your feel and your rhythm. And I think when you train hard and you feel like you did good quality work, then you can do your taper with confidence. And so that's what happened for me, and I have done this taper with confidence. So going into the actual structure of the taper, day 1, Monday, I took completely off this particular time, played a round of golf, got a massage, sat around on the couch, read, just tried to chill, eat really healthy, smoothies, this kind of thing. Just, a big piece of the puzzle, of course, is also because your body's going into repair mode, very important that you don't slip up on the nutritional aspect of things. And that can certainly be, for me, an area where I slip up, where I'm not training hard anymore. So I'm like, okay, now it's time to eat the junk food and stuff. And though the junk food's okay, I do eat quite a bit of it, it's also extremely important to get the proper nutrients in. So moving into day 2, and this is pretty set, this structure from here on out. I've kind of, over time, this is what I found works best for me. Day 2, a quality swim. And basically leading into the race, all I'm doing is thinking about the takeout. I know I can swim solo if need be. I know I have the threshold ability to do that on my own. But for me, to get to where I want to be, I really got to get out well. And so the whole week, I'm just trying to get in the zone of when that gun goes, what I need to do in order to make the pack that I want to be in. And that's all just top-end speed. So quality swim, where that's the focus. And then just a 1-hour bike workout. Once again, been repeating this bike workout for a long time now. I find it's just enough. It's 3 times 3 minutes. I was trying to hit this time around about 415 watts. Take 3 minutes recovery. Once again, there's no training effect. I'm just trying to feel activated, feel confident. So I don't need to push the pacing or anything, the pace times. Straight into 2 times 10 minutes. And this particular time, I strive for 385 watts on 3 minutes recovery. Just as I'm starting to feel like, all right, let's start to work. Let's rip these crank arms off. That's the end of the workout. That's all I wanted to do. That's all I was looking to gain from this. And then that was it. Get off the bike. And then once again, this particular time, I ran 8 kilometers, not too long after the bike. And, starting to around 5-6K, starting to feel all right, legs starting to come around, feel good, get off the treadmill. That's the end of the run. And then just 15 minutes is what it takes me to do the activation exercises that I had mentioned earlier. So that's day 2. Day 3, come back to the pool again, another quality swim. Kind of an interesting part, I think, for a weaker swimmer that is interesting and important is that oftentimes I think people try and taper for the swim the same way that they taper for the bike and the run, which is reducing the swim volume, which is great, I think, for the bike and the run because they're much less feel dependent. But the swimming is extremely feel dependent, extremely neuromuscular dependent. And so actually, as you shed the fatigue of the bike and the run, I've come to find it's actually kind of advantageous to do more quality swimming the week leading into the race because your feel for the water starts to come back, which is greatly impaired from biking and run training. So once again, go back to the pool, another quality swim. Both these last 2 quality swims have been 3,000 meters, with most of that being the main set. Really, once again, very race specific, very short warm-up. Get right into the meat of it because that's how the race is going to be. Especially a race like Indian Wells where the water temperature is going to be very, very low. Almost not even advisable to get into the water. Just maybe a little bit. Get your head in there so that you don't, get hyperventilate and get, whatever, the headache, bad headache you sometimes get from cold water. And then just get out. That's all I personally would recommend. So anyways, then just an easy 40-minute bike once again. Just I want to feel the pedals, feel like I'm starting to come around, feel like, oh, damn, I could rip this crank arm right off right now, and then get off the bike. And then not too long after, get into same idea in my final quality run workout. For me, the one I've been doing a lot lately that I like is 2 times 1 kilometer. Once again, and I did the video on it, just looking to do nothing more than I did in the videos. I think I hit 3:05 and 3:08 for the 2 1K, so 3 minutes recovery, ample recovery, and then 2 times 2K on the way down, 3:10s or 6:20 for the interval. On the way back up, 3:15s or 6:30 for the interval, 3 minutes recovery in between. Not very difficult, something I've trained, but I'm feeling confident. I'm like, oh, dang. And I said this to Aaron when we were running home. I was like, okay, confidently can break 32 minutes for 10K right now. So that's a good, for me, coming off with the bike training and everything, it being in that run shape makes me feel pretty confident that I can run a good run. If I have to go toe-to-toe, I feel like I can go toe-to-toe with guys. And so that's it. Go home after the run. That's it. And then Thursday, the next day, day 4 of the taper, was a complete off day once again. And another thing I kind of do is I don't use it too much, but I look at the TSS and the form factor on Training Peaks, and my form was still about negative 15 or so, and so I know I kind of needed a little bit more rest, that I wasn't coming around, I guess as quickly because I had kind of trained so much and so hard leading in. So then I just decided to take Thursday off. The only thing I did was do a little activation swim in the condo pool just to keep my feel going, and then just another 15-minute sort of strength activation session, which then led me to today. And admittedly, this is how I know things are really moving in the right direction. Woke up, did a 1-hour bike workout. Once again, everything is just thinking about racing. And I did 10 times 1 minute in the TT position at about 370 watts with 2 minutes recovery. Very easy, something that I'm going to want to be doing for an hour continuous in the race, but feeling really good doing it, saying no problem, going to be able to do this. And that's all it is. That's all the taper really is just constantly reminding the body that, we've got a big ask coming up now in one day. And you better be ready. You better not be disassembling any of that machinery I've built up. And so that was it. That was just 1 hour that took. Got off the bike. Once again, focusing on nutrition, getting the protein, all that stuff in because my body's in repair mode. Then went to the swim. This Friday swim, this day 5 of the taper swim, just 2 days before the race. Really important for me because this is probably where my fatigue has shed the absolute most. And so it's usually the best swimming that I'm going to do. And so then once again, we did that, as I mentioned, that a very similar set to in the threshold set, let's say 10 ones on 130. This time now we're coming in 102s, 103, so we're starting to come around. takeout speeds coming in nicely, coming out all under 30 seconds on my 50s. And so for me, these are good times. These are things that, if you asked me even 3 months ago, I wouldn't have been able to hit these kinds of things for reps. So I know things are moving in the right direction. And that's all we need to do. Another 3,200 meters, get out of the water. And then here I'm doing this video, but I'm going to head down to the gym in a few minutes and do just an activation run. Once again, same deal as I did for the bike. I'm going to do a couple of 200s, do them around 320 per kilometer. Should feel really easy. Should feel like, oh yeah, I can do this. I can rip these all day. And that's it. Then get off the treadmill. That's all I need to do. Finish it off with one more round of the activation strength exercises. And then that'll be it for today. And then for me, I like to keep my pre-race 2 days out. It's important for me to keep those meals extremely constant. So tonight I'll have pizza, super simple, nothing new, pretty hard to mess up pizza. And then tomorrow I'll have just a bowl of pasta, just regular red sauce, nothing crazy, good on my stomach. Something I've been doing for, I don't know, at least 5 years, maybe even almost 10 years that I've been in the sport. Pretty much have repeated that into every race, and it works pretty well for me. And then in terms of training that I'll do tomorrow is literally just make sure everything's working properly. I'll ride the bike for 20 minutes, make sure it's all shifting nicely. I'll swim, I'll put the wetsuit on. It's definitely going to be wetsuit legal. Basically just a couple of quick takeout things, just once again, trying to put myself on that start line. And then just an easy 5K, maybe one pickup or something, just to make sure the quick tie laces and everything are functioning properly, make sure everything feels good. And then that's it. And then just really try and, I like to do quite a bit of reading to turn my mind off, to fatigue my brain, so that, I have difficulties. My natural time to go to bed is probably midnight. Big problem if you need to wake up at 4 a.m. So really try and start reading. For me, I'll try and start reading around 7 p.m. and hopefully by like 8:30, 9 o'clock, my brain will be like, no more of this, I need to go to sleep, and I'll fall asleep and get optimally 6. I don't know if I've ever gotten 7 hours of sleep leading into a race, but optimally 6 hours of sleep. So that's the video. I know it's a little different than things we've normally done, but I think it's kind of interesting and important. I mean, the taper, you train so hard, and you can certainly dig yourself a hole or a grave if you want during the taper. And so I think the big take-home message is that everyone's unique and everyone's different, and the only way you're going to sort of get solidity in your thinking and in what you feel works is through analysis and through logging. And there's no cookie cutter thing that you can apply, because I do believe you can undertrain during the taper, and you can certainly overtrain during the taper. And so hopefully this video will inspire you to sort of do your own analysis, and maybe you'll pick up a few little pieces. But the big part is to sort of think for yourself and to come to your own conclusions, and to feel confident that you know what works best for your body. And to be adaptable, because sometimes you're going to have to execute a different taper based on circumstances. This particular one I executed pretty textbook for me because the training block was pretty textbook. But sometimes you get sick, sometimes you have an injury, whatever, and you gotta alter that taper. And the only way you're going to know how to do that is by doing it, analyzing it, seeing how you feel, seeing how you race, and then making conclusions from that. So cheers, and if you're doing the race, good luck. I see you out there. Hopefully we get through that swim. I know it's going to be cold. And then once we get on land, hopefully we'll warm up. So, cheers, guys.